Ken, can you tell us what you made of Rishi Sunak's address outside Downing Street last week?
Oh, I thought it was a combination of the absurd. I'm not quite sure in many ways what he was announcing in terms of concrete proposals, but in terms of its rhetoric, it was outrageous. But of course, it comes on the heels of previous statements by government ministers, including Suella Braverman, and then subsequent outrageous comments from Lord Warney, the government advisor. All of them having the same effect or the same intent. They're trying to demonise those marching. They are trying to suppress the calls for a ceasefire. They know they're out of sync with public opinion. And so rather than listening to what people are saying, they're trying to demonise and say, well, these are all hate mongers. These are all people who are supportive of terrorism. These are people who are all motivated by anti-Semitism. You've been here at these marches. These are overwhelmingly peaceful marches, people from all walks of life. Once again, we've got several thousand members of the Jewish community marching with us in an organised block. We know what's going on. This also, of course, comes from a government with an egregious track record of trying to stifle the broader right to protest. So we're not going to let this distract us. We expect to gain 200,000 people marching. All of them are here because they want a genocide to end, and they know, the UN's told them this week, there are 500,000 Palestinians on the brink of starvation. They look at that and they say, when they see the bodies of children being pulled out of rubble, that could be my child, that could be my brother, that could be my sister. They want it to stop. They want the government to stop its support for this genocide. But some of them are here marching because they say, I'm not going to have the democratic right to protest undermined as well. So if anything, Sunak's remarks are mobilising more people to attend.
And obviously, very recently, we've seen some changes to the prevent strategy. Do you think that these changes, Rishi Sunak is using the issue of Palestine in order to crack down on wider civil liberties?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, look, we've got two agendas colliding, and the government, I think, thinks this is yet again another culture war issue that it can foment. We've seen grotesque Islamophobic discourse from many government ministers without proper comment. Yes, he took action against Lee Anderson, but Lee Anderson was the comic book face of Islamic phobic discourse that's been iterated by other members of the government or Tory MPs he hasn't taken action against, including Liz Truss, including Suella Braverman, including Robert Jenrick, and historically including people like Michael Gove as well. And we know exactly what he's trying to do. And as for the prevent things, we've seen this before, but I'm understanding there are training courses being pushed out there saying it should be a mark of extremism or a mark of radicalisation if you have socialist views or anti-fascist views. What are we supposed to believe? That the norm is to support fascism? Is that the government position?
Recently, a number of MPs have said that Palestine protesters have been making them feel unsafe. Do you think that British politicians are unsafe right now from Palestine protesters?
No, look, we had an extraordinary situation a few weeks ago where I made a speech where I called for a lobby of Parliament. And I said, I want so many people to turn up. There'll be a queue all the way down Whitehall, and there'll be so many of you they'll have to actually shut the doors because they can't fit any more in. And this was framed, first of all, by some elements of the right-wing press as a plot calling for some form of sort of violent insurrection, as if I was some sort of modern-day Guy Fawkes. As I said in one interview, I'm not aware of a violent insurrection in history that people have been invited to queue up for, outside. So we know what's going on. We got attempts to say, I had an MP when we lobbied with 3,000 people come up to me and say, I've had 9,000 emails in my inbox. This feels like I'm being harassed. I wanted to say to him, maybe you should get a different job. You're accountable to public opinion. And no MP should fear for their personal safety. Of course, we don't support anybody who seeks to physically intimidate MPs, but I'll say this, MPs should be absolutely in fear for their jobs, and they should be listening constituents who are saying to them, I don't accept your policy on this issue, it matters to me, and it will affect how I'm going to vote at the general election.
And do you think that Palestine will be an election-defining issue this year?
Well, look, we know the dynamics of what are the fundamental issues for people, but it matters in a whole range of important constituencies. I think particularly constituencies that the Labour Party should be looking at. But it has a broader impact as well. I think the policy on Palestine has always been a sort of litmus test for how you stand on all sorts of issues. How you stand in terms of support for international law, how you stand for any support for the implementation of principles of rights, how you stand as an anti-racist if you say, well, I'm an anti-racist, but I'm happy to give support to the most egregious form of institutionalized racism that exists, the system of apartheid. So it's a litmus test on a whole range of issues, and I think it will resonate with people. There'll be a whole body of people for whom it is a fundamental issue and will affect how they vote.